Evening, everyone. It's Thursday evening, and this is your closing comment. It is video number 658, and it was ugly today. Um, we had the claims numbers, which are stuck at way too high an area. We have productivity up slightly, but we also have output down and hours worked down. And we had Chairman Powell saying absolutely nothing whatsoever today, and that was part of the problem. So we had a big jump in interest rates, and what I think that you're seeing here, and it's really not a difficult question, is that you're beginning to see some margin selling. Um, in case you don't use margin and don't understand it, I'll give you 60 seconds on it. If you buy stock for 50% of margin and your position goes down to 35% of debt to equity, then you get a margin call. If you get that margin call, and let's say your margin call is for $10,000, because your equity is below 35%, let's just call it 33.33%, you then have to sell 3 times the amount of money in order to cover the margin debt if you sell those high price stocks. But what most people do is they sell something else. For example, if you have a stock that trades for under $5 a share, it's not marginable. So if you sell it, you get full use of whatever money is generated. So let's say that you own Tellurian, for example, and it costs you $5, or $5 is too high because it hasn't been there yet. But let's say it cost you $4 and it's currently selling for $2.50 while you have a loss. If you sell it, you get 100 cents on the dollar towards your margin equity. And so you could sell 4,000 shares of Tellurian and get $10,000, or you could sell 3 times the amount that you need of the stock that's generating that margin call, like Apple or Square or Costco or Google, any of them. And so people sell those. They also sell or liquidate options, which are 100 cents on the dollar. Or they sell Bitcoin, which is a cash commodity, and you get 100 cents on the dollar there too. And so this is what happens, and you perpetuate selling to the downside, and it just continues. If you don't meet your margin call, either with a check or by selling it, the margin clerk sells it. They sell whatever they want. It all goes in at the market, whatever it happens to be. So you don't really want to do that. So if somebody is making the choice, that's the obvious choice. So on a day like today, where you might have wanted to hold that Square, which is down from 258 to 210 and was down almost 15 more today, or your Apple, which is down from 145 to 118, you sold your Tellurian, or you sold one Bitcoin. That accumulates. And so that's what we have in the way of, that's why margin selling hurts the market, even though it might not hurt the stocks that are already down and generating that call. So I think that we had a fair amount of that. And margin clerks have until between 2 and 2:30. So if you look at the hourly chart, you'll see that the Dow hit down 722 and the NASDAQ, its low, down 450 in the late afternoon, and then bounced back. So, this is not conjecture. this is the way it happens. So the Dow closed down 346.95, down 1.1% after being down over double that, down 722. The Nasdaq closed down 274.28 or 2.1%, and it was down 454 at the low. And in fact, in the last 3 days, it has fallen 1,057 points. Now, that's pretty ugly. But I'm not going to go through all of those, but you get the general idea. The S&P was down 51.25 or 1.34%. It too was much lower. The only one that closed closer to the low was the Russell, down 84.58 or 3.79%, the big loser for the day. And the Dow Jones Transportation's down 328.78 or 2.43%. The advanced declines on the NYSE were 3.2 to 1 to the downside, obviously. And over on the NASDAQ, they were 5 to 1. And volume was roughly 50% higher today than it was yesterday. So, you get to see that as the volume increases and the selling increases and then it bounces back, we probably will have some more margin calls tomorrow for people who, got stuck at the end of the day. And so we'll see. We also have the February employment numbers, and I can't imagine they're good on the basis of what the claims look like. If they did improve, I would expect that they only improved moderately. So, OPEC today said that they were not going to cut what was expected, which was between 1 million barrels a day. They were going to add 1 million barrels a day. Some people looking for as much as 1.5 million, and they came in at 500,000. So that pushed the oil up. Oil closed 63.83, up 255 after being down this morning to 60.52, and then as high today is almost $65. 64.86 was the high. As far as stocks go, I mentioned this morning Snowflake, which had a loss, even though they had 200% increase in volume or 100% increase in volume, twice what was expected. And this morning, I told you it was up about $2.50 at 249.5. It actually closed 249, up $1.97, so it gave back some of that. Kroger had a beat top and bottom, closed 34.09, up 84 cents or 2.5%. Costco had a beat on revenues, but a miss on earnings, mostly because of higher costs, most specifically wages. So the stock, which right before Christmas was 393, had closed today 319.04, down 488, sank further to 312, last 314, down 10.24 or 3.1%. I mentioned Square, but these are just examples. There were really no specific news. So we had Square, which was 258 a couple of days ago, traded as low as 210 today. 219.25, down 14.71. We had Apple, which was 145 a month and a half ago, touched 118.62 today, and the last is 119.98, down 216. Google, on the other hand, was higher. It isn't at a new high, but it's also only down about $100 from its all-time high, and closed today at 2,037.50, up 26.09. That was the only one that you'll see that was actually up. Now, this morning I mentioned Purple, who is a betting company. They missed top and bottom line, and the stock had closed at 26.90. it was as low as 23.72. It actually 26.90 was the high for the stock in pre-market trading. The high in the real world was only 22.40, and it was as low as 16.57, and the last was 17.60. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I messed up on that. It was as high as 28.45 this morning, but today it was only as high as 26.90. It had closed at 28.39, and it traded down as low as 23.72 and finished the day 24.65, down 11.5 or 32%, as opposed to this morning when it was only down 8.78 or 24%. The one that had the big range today was actually Tanger Outlets, and I mentioned that this morning because there really wasn't any earnings news or anything special about it, and I thought that it might be a Reddit stock because it was actually higher. It traded as high as 25.69 this morning. No news, and it was trading at 18.65 up 258 at the pre-opening comment. The high for the day in the real world was only 22.40, the low 16.57. So after they took it up, they took it right back down, and it has a close or a last, because it's still trading, 17.68, down just 6 cents. But down 6 cents versus up 258 this morning, and of course trading $4 or $4.50 lower than the high for the day is pretty extreme, even though the stock has a big short interest. Okay, so I told you about the oil. The gold came into the downside again, finished at exactly 1700.70, down 15.10. Bitcoin, after being as high as 52,190, made a low on the day of 47,425 and finished the day 48,310, which was down 25.60. The dollar was up 70 cents at 91.64. I'll show you the chart in a few minutes, but that brings it back to the area that I felt was going to hold it, which was about 92. And the bonds were down 1.5 on Powell's non-comment. Okay, so the chart on the screen is the S&P, and it's up there for a reason, because last week, actually the week before, I drew this line across and said that a close below 39.30 would be a break. So we broke below that, and in 2 days we were 38.04, so we were down in excess of 100. We rallied all the way back up and looked like we were breaking out here, closing on the high up 44.5 following day, from a slightly nominal high to closing on the low. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because this is pretty much a measured move from the low here on the 23rd to the high here on the 25th. We broke to the downside, and that move measures remarkably right to this 36.75. We closed at 37.63, and we were as low as 37.20. So, I would expect to possibly come back in as low as this number here, 36.55, 36.60, and this moving average, which is the 100-day, may hold it, and as a measured move would also stop it in this same area. Okay, I promised to look at Bitcoin, and here it is. We are currently up 55 now that the evening session has started. But again, we looked like we were breaking to the upside this morning. I warned about the fact that we hadn't really broken above this and had only closed up 2/3 on the range. And then we had looked like an inside day for a while, but we actually ended up with a lower high and a lower low. Yesterday's high was 53,000. Today's high was 52,190. So that's a substantial shortage on the upside. And then the low yesterday was 47,425. Today's low was, yesterday's low was 47,955. Today's low was 47,425. And as I said, we're up a little right now. Actually, now we're down $10. So really not much action. But if we break below here, this looked like this 5-day and 20-day looked like they were going to separate again and go higher. It now looks like there's a strong possibility, if it goes down at all, and certainly if it breaks today's low at 47,425, that we're going to, at the very least, test 44,500. I still stick by 39 to 40,000 in here, the most recent important break to the upside, even though we've had massive volume on the downside and very subdued volume on the upside. So that's where we are. I will be doing tonight's daily note shortly, but I hope that you understand about the margin selling and how it really affects all stocks, whether they're marginable or not. In fact, especially the ones that are not. And I'll be back first thing in the morning to give you an opening comment on the jobs numbers for the month. One other thing I want to mention, and that is I mentioned this morning about the futures trading, and when we get markets like this, I think that futures are a great non-correlated asset. Again, if you direct message me or call or send me an email, I'll be happy to send you the information and give you as many of the answers as I can. All right, everyone, have a good evening. I'll be back in the morning.